And that is where we find the party. Sai, who has been instrumental in deciphering the direction given through your impromptu Ouija board session, is able to, and with the assistance of everybody in the room, the Ouija board session,
including the guy we couldn't see,
and you take full credit for that. That was not an idea on my part. You just gave me an idea and I ran with it.
I love to Ouija.
You're a Ouija boo.
Wow. It made for a very memorable moment.
Oh, God, yeah.
I got so first of all, credit to Kaylee for coming up with it.
Absolutely.
And credit to you, Brian, for adding in a little touch of the ghost saying that he misses his friend.
That was
great, man. Got me in the heart.
Oh, yeah, kind of did me too. So, with all of your help to construct a third ring for this Summer Sun, it's been named, which is essentially what you would recognize now as just a miniaturized Mythalar. You replace the stone in the center, you add a third ring, Sai takes the time to attune to it, and after he attunes to it, he uses what is the primary function of the device, even though it's very complex, which is a control weather spell for anybody who's familiar with the nuances of that, and is able to, first of all, erase the everlasting night in a radius so far that you don't know how far it extends. If you're not familiar with the control weather spell, which I'll allow a roll, then all you know is that it's daytime now. The sun comes out and it's immediately warmer. Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, 22.
22.
Whoa.
All right.
Oh, like these dice.
What the hell? I'm going to roll for kicks because it'd be terrible.
Used to it.
Oh, actually, I have a 19 plus something. I don't know.
19 would probably get you there.
So
You're
just gonna
druid,
be like, excuse me, and she's gonna go change.
Yeah.
Wearing all this Drougcraft stuff, looking badass, and it's like, and there's the sun. Gonna put on my glowy dress now.
Get my glitter dress.
Yeah.
Oh, Drow, did you forget your parasol at home?
Oh, if only that would work.
I did, but the parasol would dissolve in the sunlight.
But seriously, if you do find a parasol that works like that, let me know.
So those of you who rolled and were successful on your roll, which is the both of you, know that the effects of the spell are likely limited to like a 5-mile radius around you. So a good chunk of land. Yeah, a good chunk of land is now in sunlight. And immediately feeling warming and less scary, less intimidating, more, inviting. I mean, the black cabin's still kind of a creepy looking spot, but it looks more like this in the illustration where you have some light. It's, there's passing storm clouds, but every once in a while there's a break and you actually see the for real sun above you and it warms your face and the birds start singing in the forest and just everything feels a little less intimidating.
Koo starts singing a Disney princess song.
Yes, and the birds flock to you.
Love's kiss.
And you guys, Sai has to. He doesn't have to, and I forget exactly where he was when he cast this, but normally
in the living room, I think.
Normally with the control weather spell, you have to have an uninterrupted view to the sky.
There's clearly a hole in the roof.
Yeah, there is.
There's a lot of holes in the roof.
But since Sai, I'll make the knowledge of Sai the knowledge of the party, because I'm assuming he communicated if you were here. Once he's attuned to it, he knows that by using this device to cast the spell, he does not have to adhere to that you have to see the sky limitation. He can cast it from indoors if he wants to, and I believe he did. I believe you're right. He cast it from indoors. And so there's probably the temptation, if you guys want to, maybe you don't, but if you guys want to be involved in it, to stumble outside and see what the world looks like without the oppressive night and winter conditions that have been hounding you for the past 6 odd so months.
Makati is a lizard. So I'm immediately going to go outside because it just feels good.
Yeah.
And I push my sleeves up and I'm kind of just like, ooh.
Just get on a nearby rock and start preening.
It does. And even those of you who are inside the cabin.
Out, I lick my eye.
Even those of you who are in the cabin, within the areas around the windows or where the roof is no longer intact, just the warmth of the sunlight is something that invigorates you. You feel more alive just having been in it.
I feel like Una goes outside and someone has to move her head because she's just staring directly into the sun.
No, we don't do that. You can come up even in the eclipse.
Yeah, no, let her go.
She's seen some shit.
Koos's head is spinning because now there's a whole slew of different animals that could potentially find us and predators that know exactly where we are. Mm-hmm. So he's like, how in the fuck do I cover these tracks? Oh, God!
And Zev's having a similar crisis.
Yeah.
Like, I was kind of getting used to this. The surface was getting like the Underdark, and it was okay. Now everything's changed. I mean, it's going back to normal, and that's great. And it's fine. It's going to be fine.
I would like nature or survival rolls specifically from Makati and from Kusbulad. You may make one for Nyantai as well.
Ooh.
Can I help?
Niantai's much better.
I'm distracted
not
by
for
the
that.
sun.
Yeah.
I'm just like...
that would happen, yeah. How does Nyantai do?
Niantai has an 18.
So you would know this with your connection with Nyantai. Aside from the light, which is the most obvious sensory input, the smell. The smell of, like, freshly melting snow. As soon as the light hits the frozen pine trees, you get that hemlocky, piney scent.
Is it, like, steamy out?
It's starting to get a little steamy. The snow that's built up on the roof, like, that starts to, like, literally steam and melt away. Like, the spots where the sunlight coming through the windows is hitting the wooden floor where the snow is piled up, starting to, like, melt a little bit.
Makes sense. That's why it's a black cabin, because it attracts heat from sunlight and melts the snow. Okay, that makes a lot more sense all of a sudden.
It still does not look very nice in the sunlight. We could burn it down.
But I love where your head's at, because take that leap of logic that Ben just made. It's a black cabin now, like, oh, it makes sense. It attracts the light, it attracts the heat. Like, everything feels less terrifying because in the light of day, everything feels like it has reason and order. And you didn't feel that before. You were in the dark where everything more than 60 feet away from you was mysterious and creepy, and it no longer feels that way.
And there was no color either.
Yes.
Yeah.
May I make an Arcana check? Is that like just a normal natural reaction, or is that like, is there an actual like
psychological spell component?
Dispel? Like, have we dispelled something?
Go ahead and make a roll.
Let me try this one again.
Get these notes.
Whoa.
19 on the die.
These new dice are hot.
That's 23.
Because Makati is a being that's partly infused with shadow, you have an interesting perspective when it comes to light versus dark, shadow versus, obscurity versus obviousness. Like, you perceive things just a shade different than everybody does.
Everything has its match.
Yes, and this is definitely like, it is, if it is not absolutely the difference between the Shadowfell and the Feywild, it is adjacent. Like, it feels less oppressive in a way that is, if it's not magical, it might as well be. Because you're just uplifted and feeling the relief of not being in a winter's night anymore. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
I want to do what I can to see if the ghost has been appeased and has now found rest.
All right. That sounds like it would require a roll, but I'll allow somebody to help him if he wants to make that roll with assistance.
What kind of roll?
How would you like to do this?
I am going to just ask pointed questions about things the ghost would be familiar with and see if anything knocks or moves or is stirred. And I guess I'm going to go for like a perception, or it sounds like I'm going persuasion, which is a really bad roll, but it might be what I'm doing.
All right. Who would like to help him persuade a ghost to see if it's still around?
I will.
You've been communicating with it, so yeah, that makes sense.
Normally I'd help, but I think Zev's a bit preoccupied right now.
Yeah, there's a lot going on.
Actually, that's pretty good. That's a 15.
15 with the advantage?
With the advantage.
Okay.
I have -1 to the roll.
I'd like to hear, like, I think I have a pretty good idea, but how do you envision Una helping Kus communicate with the ghost?
Maybe, like, Kus, like, telling Una what he wants to ask, and then Una sort of puts that into, like, a socially acceptable concept, because Kus Balad's a wild man.
Yeah,
Are you still using the Ouija board?
No,
She wiped it out.
She wiped it out.
All right. So without a clear and obvious way of communicating, with a 19... Oh, you had something to say. What's up?
I'm just going to say the whole hot-cold kind of spiritual thing, and now we actually have a differential between hot and cold. Like...
That's true.
Cold for yes, hot for no.
Yeah.
But...
So, in the darkness when the cabin was confirmed haunted, the shadows in the corners that would gather and the dark rooms that were unlit by any sort of fire or light source, was like an impenetrable, just shy of magical darkness. And now, it's like you would picture, if you walked into an empty house with no power during the day, dark, it's dim, but it's not like oppressively like blinding dark. And without a clear means of communicating, you feel like if the ghost is trying to reach out to you, it's very subtle. And there is like a sweet, warm breeze that blows through the cabin that, you know, one of the windows that banged open or was broken open before, like a little bit of the snow drift just sort of blows out the window, and you feel like the cabin is kind of at peace. It's no longer like it was sighing and heaving and breathing and creaking with the presence of this otherworldly spirit. It's no longer doing that. It's making regular cabin sounds. You hear the drip, drip, drip of water as the snow on the roof melts, and when you walk around, the floorboards creak underneath you, but they're not creaking in other corners of the house where nobody's walking around. You feel like that ghost maybe has left.
So, before we had gone in here, we had entertained the idea of just burning this fucking thing to the ground, right?
Nuke it from orbit.
I think that was our actual first reaction.
I think we all discussed it in character. I think that was
I put this picture up, and you guys started lighting matches IRL.
It was like,
Which is
just throwing them at my TV.
If it's a black cabin, it's also probably coated in tar to protect it from moisture and to make it black.
Perfect.
Yeah. That is absolutely true. And I mean, Una would probably know this being a 10-tonner. A lot of the woodwork is like, a lot of the boats are like that to make them watertight. You know, that's just something that's done to woodwork around here because of the moisture.
My thought would be, absolutely not. We don't burn it. This place was a haven for hunters and other people who are, you know, out in the wilds. In Icewind Dale, it's a landmark for people to find refuge from predators. This place could be made safe again with a minimal amount of effort. Fix the holes in the roof and, you know, make sure that the stairs aren't broken. And this place is a functional refuge for other people.
Yeah.
Speaking of other people, I would like to remind the party and, you know, as thorough as your notes were, and they were very thorough.
Psy isn't people, Brian.
No, I wasn't referring to Psy, and I never will.
Oh, good.
Talking about Psy's baby.
And we'll get to Psy in a moment. There was one thing that got left out of the recap, and that was when you were communicating with the ghost. The ghost did say that a bear that walks on 2 feet visited the cabin regularly.
Yes.
Yeah, the ghost said it was a Goliath, but the squirrel that I was talking to
exactly.
thought it was a bear.
Yes.
Could be both. Could be a druid Goliath.
Likely a Goliath wearing bear skins.
Yes. Yeah, I think all of these things are true.
Or just a bear.
And
Goliath.
could also be a werebear.
Could just be a bear.
Yep.
Could just be an awakened bear.
Thought in your mind, you are suddenly more keenly aware of the fact that, like, all sorts of wildlife is making noise outside right now, reacting to the sudden burst of sunlight that it hasn't seen. Birds are chirping, and you can hear, like, you're trained to pick up these things, so you can hear, like, the chipmunks and mice and weasels and the small varmints of the world moving through the forest and
cracking of ice in the river.
Yeah, all these weird sounds that you know are native to a landscape such as this, but you haven't heard because it's been nighttime for 6 months. Probably
longer.
Yeah, 30 months at this point.
Yeah, Una is deeply affected by the sun coming out because she has lived in this for whatever.
Yeah. Is there anything immediately you'd like to do in the few minutes after Psy has cast his spell?
I want to get a lay of the land for how much damage has been done to the cabin and how long it would take to repair it for an actual human refuge.
Okay. What would Una like to do in this time?
I think Una's just gonna, like, be enjoying the sunlight. She might go down, we're near the river, right?
Yeah, it's a pretty steep drop off this cliff, and then down the cliff face is the river below you.
Okay.
We're at 6, right?
Yes, you are.
So I thought.
Yeah, the river sort of feeds the lake there.
Shall I put a check mark on that?
Yeah, you might as well. That's a quest you've had since session 2.
Yeah.
About damn time.
I was gonna say, you know, being from a sort of water adjacent town, she was gonna go down to the river and just see, like, running water for the first time. But it doesn't sound like she's... I'd have to blow a spell slot to get down that cliff.
Great song.
Yeah, but you can see it from the cliff face if you
Yeah.
want. As a matter of fact, the way the cabin is built on stilts right up against the edge, you could actually probably go to a window you can't see on this illustration because it'd be on the side wall and look down and see the river. It's a hunting cabin. You're meant to see the river.
You're probably supposed to be able to fish from that window, so you have to go outside.
Well, it's many feet down.
Yeah.
So. But yes, you could see the river, and you can't really see running water yet, but like the steam coming from the ice leads you to believe that it's starting. Yeah, exactly. What would Zev like to do? You have the sunlight beaming in through windows, so I'm sure this is affecting you.
After thoroughly stuffing away the Drowcraft items, keep them shielded from the sun, and also taking some time to consider what to do this, the political ramifications it will hold with the 10 towns, such as they are, and exactly how or if we're going to take credit for it. She's just doing a lot of thinking. Because right now, if you say it's miles of land that's affected by this, it kind of looks like everything's affected.
Yes,
so
and without having made a roll, that's exactly what it looks like to you, is that it's over. The night is over and dawn has come.
And she's wondering, do we take this myth lore with us? And can we just use it over and over? There's lots of questions in her head that she will be keeping track of. So I think after thinking about all this stuff, and she's just going to return to her companions when we're ready to go, because obviously we can't stay here unless it looks like Koos is fixing to fix the place.
That is on the agenda because we also brought a cartload full of reconstruction supplies to trade with the barbarians.
You did?
So we have lumber, we have nails.
Are we misappropriating it by not giving it to them then?
I mean, we don't have to use all of it. It's one small cabin. We were going to give them like a couple ships worth of crap, so...
You did specifically say you had like a wagon full of lumber and nails and...
Okay, so how much would it call for to fix the cabin up?
Like at least the roof, right?
Yeah, basically make it a place that somebody could retain heat when we don't have the sun thing on.
I mean, it would take a carpenter. So we'll get back to that because I want to hear what Makati's doing first.
I want to get on the roof, actually.
Okay.
Because I want to get to the highest point of the house that I can.
Mm-hmm.
And I want to look as far into the horizon as I can to see where the spell ends.
Okay.
Because I know, like, control weather is, like, this huge radius, I know, whatever, but...
It's a radius.
Yeah, but also, this is, like, gonna be a weird reference, but, like, you know how, like, in Fortnite there's, like, the storm?
Kind of, yeah.
Like, there's, like a storm that encloses, like, various different video games that do the Hunger Games style, like, until the last person that pushes you in. Is there that kind of, like... Can I see where the darkness starts?
So it's hard for me to say, because I guess if you were on the top of a mountain, you could see out for 5 miles easily, right?
Yeah. But fog and mist.
But is it like really
and
like
mountains? And
I'm going to talk out of my ass here. I imagine it looks fairly unnatural. Like, you can see for 5 miles, and then at 5 miles it stops at a wall of night, just like a clear division, straight line of it's. You know, if you were to take one more step, you'd be in nighttime. You know.
So Kaylee's measuring it out. I've been trying to eyeball it.
miles.
Kelvin's Cairn is currently in sunlight. The edges of Lonelywood are currently in sunlight. None of the other 10 towns are.
Yeah.
Because my second question was going to be, has anybody else noticed? Do we think?
So Sai knows how the spell works.
Yes.
So Sai knows.
Sai does know, and so just so the table knows, control weather is a concentration spell. It normally lasts for 8 hours. Transmutation, so you're getting a strong transmutation vibe. Centered on the device, when he cast it, it goes for 5 miles. You're not sure if moving the device moves the sphere of influence, or if the 5 miles is static and it doesn't matter where the sphere moves.
I'll point out to the group that's something that's worth exploring.
Yeah. Normally it has VSM for components, but because you're using this device to channel it, it only requires the device itself. It controls the weather within 5 miles of you for the duration, 8 hours. Technically, Sai could change it if he wanted to during that time.
So if we need to hide, we could make it a blizzard and hide the blizzard.
It says you must be outdoors to cast the spell. This device releases you from that requirement. Moving to a place where you don't have a clear path to the sky ends the spell early, not if you're using the device. When you cast a spell, you change the current weather conditions, which are determined by the DM based on the climate and season. You can change precipitation, temperature, and wind. It takes 1d4 times 10 minutes for the new conditions to take effect. Once they do, you can change the conditions again. When the spell ends, the weather gradually returns to normal. When you change the weather conditions, find a current condition on the following, blah, blah, blah. Yeah.
It's a real shame that it's concentration and that Sai's the one who took it on, because Sai has Call Lightning. It does bonus damage if there's storms. It'd be really cool if somebody was like, now it's a thunderstorm, and Sai's like...
Yeah, it goes all like Thor. Yeah.
I don't think Zev could help herself, too. She'll probably say something to the effect of, we should consider moving this to one of the two Bryn Shander, or perhaps the new settlement. They would gain a significant amount of power by having this year-round, and be able to rebuild their civilization. Not to mention, we would reap the benefits of such power.
We would potentially. I think it would benefit us to turn the device off before we arrive.
Of course.
I hate to agree, but I do.
You had asked how long it would take to repair the cabin.
Yes.
If all 5 of you pitched in, none of you are trained in carpentry tools, are you?
No.
No.
Yeah.
No.
I'm going to.
But we have a ranger and a druid, so druidcraft.
I'm going to speak on Simon's behalf and say, without having the know-how to do it, even with the materials, it would probably take you a couple of days to do it right. It would take a skilled carpenter with the materials probably half a day. And that's only because the roof is treacherous and he would have to take extra precautions not to fall off the goddamn thing.
It's a shame that Lonelywood is totally vacant because those guys would absolutely know how to do that.
Yeah.
We could at least leave some of the lumber and nails here for anyone who...
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess here's my question for the DM, because this matters for us. If taking the couple days to repair it results in this place being a refuge, we could take a long rest.
Yes, I would say if this were properly repaired, and it would be up to the dice to decide whether or not you are able to do a good enough job, because, quite frankly, none of you are skilled carpenters, and just looking at the layout of this cabin, this is a difficult job.
I built a birdhouse once.
This would be for a very large bird.
We'll immediately move in when we leave.
So I would say if you were to take 2 days, and you were at the mercy of the rolls to see whether or not it was successful, and you were then successful, yes, this would be a place where you could take a long rest in the wilderness.
Assuming this is democracy, Zev will say, I don't think we have the time to spare for that, particularly because we have the disappearance of the Lonelywood population to worry about. This may not be a safe area in any case, whether this place is repaired or not.
A fair point. So I acquiesce. I think we should leave some of the lumber and nails behind, as you said. Not like all of our load of trade, but enough that we could at least patch up the roof.
Can they be safely stored here?
Yeah, I think we just bring it upstairs.
Yeah. Find a not fucked up part of the roof to lead under.
You could do that. You could also do it appears that the area underneath the cabin, where underneath the
Relatively
stilts,
sheltered,
yeah, people have used that to store things in the past. I mean, mostly hanging deer carcasses and that sort of thing, elk carcasses, but also to stack lumber to keep it out of the elements. So that's something you could do.
Yeah,
I mean,
so put a couple of larger logs down at the bottom so that when the runoff refreezes on hitting the ground, it doesn't freeze the boards to the ground. Yeah. And then just stack all the boards up on the 2 logs.
Yeah.
This is related to an earlier point as well, Zev says. But we should consider that we have created a spectacle, inadvertently as it is. The followers of Oriel might wish to stop whatever is happening.
I'm sure they will, but they need to know that we're here.
Exactly.
Size vocalized, it's 5 miles at this point, right? We know.
Yeah, everything I told you about the control weather spell came out of Side's mouth. I just can't do the voice.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Then if he explains it, then...
I've traveled a lot around these lands, and this will stretch as far as Calvin's Cairn. And it might stretch as far as Lonelywood, but we believe Lonelywood to be vacant.
There is relief in that, but I dare not underestimate those who have augury and other divine powers at their disposal.
Thank goodness they don't have a magic mirror.
We have taken that away from them, true.
I would like perception rolls from everybody in the party, including Nyantai, please. Zev, you might have to make yours a disadvantage because they'll be in the sunlight.
Yes, I forget if that applies to skill checks or not, but I'll check that. So if
it does, yeah. I forget too, honestly, but you
it's either a 13 or 12 for me anyway.
I crit with a 28.
Well, fuck you.
Nyantai has a 16.
I have an 18.
18? 3. And we'll lay it on Zev, but it sounds like the very
it's
least...
either 13 or 12.
Okay. At the very least, you and Nyantai and Una are aware that while you guys are deliberating what to do with the cabin, that the sounds of wildlife have changed. They haven't disappeared altogether, but it's definitely shifted. And you would recognize this as something that happens when birds sense a predator around.
Disadvantage on perception checks that rely on sight.
Okay, this would be
so I can still
that.
hear and smell okay.
Yeah, but yeah, okay, so, and I'm describing bird sound, so I guess not for this. You can take your higher number.
13.
13. You still fail, but... Sorry, bud.
I mean, so what do you...
just toying with
What do the drow know of birds?
There's underdark birds, I'm sure. Underbirds.
That's been on the surface for a
They're
few
called
years.
Vrock, actually.
Bunderdark?
Bunderdark.
Birds of the Underdark?
The Underdussy.
You have it.
I thought I'd get back to
using
you.
the word of the year.
You're welcome.
Yeah.
Never mind. All right, I'm derpy.
Yeah.
I'm gonna need that in a minute.
Oh, well, I'm going to pass it over to you in a minute. How do you like that?
You like them apples. Yeah, so something wicked this way comes, for lack of a better terminology. Got your attention.
Sorry, my Shakespeare senses are too big. I was like trying really hard to think of a joke, and I was like, I don't.
And in my mind's eye, when you make these perception rolls, I mean, Zev is probably inside to stay out of the sunlight for obvious reasons. But I feel like the most of you are probably like in and out from outside, like enjoying the sunlight, but also like trying to get a good idea of how long cabin repairs take.
She's going to start taking more drugs again.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, I'm probably layering the lumber underneath the house right now.
Yeah. Zai decides that if people start looking around to see what's going on, he's taking the device inside where it's defensible.
Yep.
Have we determined if we can transport it?
You have not traveled far enough and gotten any sort of sense as to whether or not traveling changes the sphere of influence. You can absolutely transport the device. It is maybe the size of a beach ball.
Okay.
Or a volleyball. So it's easily transportable. You just don't know what effect that has, if any, on the spell.
And we're keeping it hidden, I assume.
Yeah. We are not going to be discreet. We have 2 teams of sled dogs downstairs. We have 6 people in this party.
A dead body and a mirror the size of a surfboard.
Yeah, so I'm just going to call upstairs and say, something comes. Arm yourselves.
Okay, I will pick out a hiding spot and get my laser rifle ready.
Mage armor.
Shield.
All right. And is the idea basically just to hunker down and wait for whatever's coming to come?
Yep.
All right, that's a good plan.
Be visible.
It's probably the bear.
Oh,
Or the Goliath.
No, they liked him.
Oh.
Well, we don't know about the birds.
I will go ahead and make a
squirrels.
stealth
Squirrels
check.
liked it.
It's going to be 20.
Maybe he's a real dick to birds. I don't know. He shows up and flicks a canary. Fuck off.
He's snapping pigeons out of the air like big puffs of feathers.
In his defense, birds are dicks.
Birds are dicks.
Kicks a stork into the river.
Fuck you, stork.
No more babies for you.
Kick it right in the baby maker.
He punches a bald eagle because he's a communist.
You dumb son of a bitch.
It's like Russian Mario.
Italian Mario.
No, Russian Mario. Have you seen that?
Yes. No, I've only seen the Italian version.
There's a Russian one where, like,
Mario.
he's jumping on the Koopas, but they're wearing, like, green American military helmets. It's
Like little green berets.
fucking hilarious.
So as you hunker down and not trying to disguise its approach at all.
Oh, it really is a bear.
Oh, it actually is a bear.
Yes.
That's so cool.
Wow.
So it is this that exits the forest, with the exception of it's also pulling its own small sleigh through the snow, which you can see is wrapped in like, armor that's bundled in like oiled rags, and a battle axe with the head is wrapped in like an oil skin as well to keep the rust off of it. It's just sort of pulling its own sleigh with a fishing pole over its shoulder. And, as it approaches the cabin, it releases the sleigh and sticks the fishing pole in the snow and shouts up, "Hello? Who is in the cabin, Macretus? Is that you?"
And I'll shout back, "Hail, good friend. My name is Kusbalad, ranger of these wilds. We were looking at potentially making repairs to this refuge."
"Bulad, your last name is familiar to me. Who else goes in this cabin?"
Attending me are a number of traveling companions. Una of... What's the name? Golden...
No,
Goodmead.
Golden Showers?
Una Matthews.
I travel with Una Matthews of... Goodmead.
Two words.
I was
Sounds
thinking,
like
I have Golden Fields in my head from the other campaign.
Yeah, from Storm King's Thunder, which was like 5 years ago, but cool.
You know what? It was really fun.
It was. I had a great time.
Yeah, so there.
And I say...
Yeah, so fuck you.
as well as a number of other more unique companions from the tribes in these areas. I actually travel with a goblin, a drow, and a dragonborn.
A dragonborn. Come forth.
Do.
I guess I do that.
He's asking you to come.
That's your
I'm
cue.
just like, I kind of like peek my head out the door, like, hello?
You actually peek your head out all the way, so like your face
Like,
is
I'm like,
The crossbow bolt goes right here.
Makati.
Do I know this person?
You do not.
What the fuck?
Step out, child. Let me get a good look at you.
I kind of step out, and I'm like, and then they're like,
He's been reading our character sheets.
oh,
He's
fuck.
Santa. He's pulling a sled.
Oh no!
He knows you.
Fuck.
He sees me when I'm sleeping.
He's jerking off.
I come outside and I kind of shake off the alarm and I go, I apologize if I have forgotten if we have made acquaintance before, but could you remind me where we may have met?
I witnessed to your hatching. You've grown.
Substantially, I would suppose.
I am Oye Mantaruk, the Shadow Warden.
It's a fucking cool name.
We've heard Mantaruk before, haven't we? Isn't that a family name we've heard?
You have. You have heard Oye Mantaruk in circles amongst Goliath, mostly, as someone that prospective Goliath warriors looking to make a name for themselves go into the wilderness.
This
and
is the
challenge
guy
fight.
that the one who got killed and eaten was supposed to go duel.
Yes.
He's so fucking cool.
That was session
I'm so
like,
obsessed
3.
with
That was
him.
the Baby Yeti and all that shit.
Yeah.
Oh, shit.
And he says, we've not had reason to make acquaintances since, but it's good to see that you are alive and thriving.
Yes, the mother has kept such a close and watchful eye over me.
Not here, I imagine, as the shadows flee from whatever spell you've cast.
This is a recent development.
I witnessed to it. It is recent, startling, and troubling yet exciting all at the same time. I wish to know more.
I kind of glance over at Koosblad and get the thumbs up from Koos.
Yeah, let's spell it.
Yeah, we found a device in your cabin that needed some adjustments to it, and our good goblin friend was able to get it functioning, which allowed us to cast the darkness from the sky and return a sense of balance to this side of the plane.
And with that, the werebear, which is what it is, takes a handful of the melting snow off the top of the crust and sort of like runs it between the big bear paw fingers and says, it's been a long time since I've felt the warmth of the sun on my fur. Turns back to his wagon and moves some stuff around and takes 2 big knucklehead trout, both maybe like 4 feet long, probably several hundred pounds apiece,
Nice.
one over either shoulder, and calls up to Koosbalad, start a fire. We'll eat well today. It's been a long time since I've had a proper lunch.
I guess we were taking a rest here, fellows.
Oh, Oye, while I do not recall you, I am glad to make your reacquaintance now that I am more sentient than I was as a mere tadpole of thing.
A hatchling, your mother called you, and
Yes.
one of her pride. We will discuss it more, but first we eat.
I start a fire and send Nyantai to go grab enough Y-shaped sticks to make a spit.
Una,
Yes.
in your time since you've left your home, you've had to do some reprehensible things.
Some fucked up shit.
Yeah, in order to survive
So
because
polite.
of the scarcity of food and warmth. While you enjoy the fact that now there is abundance of both, it really is starting to make you feel kind of guilty. I don't want to take your agency away, but like you're feeling as though like
If I had just waited a little bit longer.
perhaps.
It's like the ending of The Mist.
Yes. Yep. You're literally minutes away from sunlight. Yeah.
6 months.
So, well, I don't want to tell you how your player feel or your character feels. Like there is this weird dichotomy over the things that you had to do to survive the long night, and now you're living momentarily in a land of plenty. Just some flavor text for you. I assume that you're building this fire and
Build the fire, set up the spit. Yep.
All right.
Getting the vibe that we're not being attacked, so I will put away my gun and get dressed for dinner.
Put on your sparkly dress.
Pretty much.
And Do you make yourself known, or do you just stay in the cabin at this point?
Since it appears that Koos and the others trust this being, I'll wait till I get a signal first.
Okay. Do one of you make the effort to signal Zev and let her know?
Yeah, I call everyone down.
Cool. Because in Drow she's thinking, maybe she's setting him up for an ambush? By being nice?
Could be. Upon seeing a drow come down the stairs, the expression on Oya Mantaruk's bare face sort of softens a little more. Like it's a little severe because it's a bare face. It's hard to read. But there was sort of a grim set to it, and then seeing a drow, it softens a little bit, and she approaches you and says, "From where in the Underdark do you call home?"
Well, first of all, a glowy curtsy. I will answer. I'll answer him. Is it him or her?
Tough to tell. It's a bear.
Cool.
Gender, bear.
Bear gender. Love it. All right. Well, I will tell Bear them that they. So she'll say, originally I come from Menzo Berenson. I am from the noble house Fay Branch, though I confess I have not heard anything from them in a long time. I hope that after the recent catastrophe that befell down there, I'm not sure if you're aware, that everything is all right. But I have been up here on diplomatic missions, and quite embroiled in politics as well. The surface world's been fascinating, and my travels have brought me here.
I am aware of what befell Menzo Berenson. It is my business to track the outsiders that wander into our world and to maintain the portals that allow them to travel hither and there.
The portals?
They are many, and some are hidden.
You must have many stories to tell, Mantaruk.
Indeed I do, but before I tell them, I wish to offer my heartfelt condolences to you and your people who have suffered as the outsiders invaded your homeland. And I would raise a glass to those ancestors that you have lost in that fight.
Your kindness is most uncommon, Mantaruk, and I thank you.
Many people have shunned the Drow, but in the greater scheme of the cosmos, their calculatedness is not what I would call evil.
She smiles, taken aback by this acceptance. We do have much to offer the surface world, and I've always hoped that I've been able to make that clear. You've made an excellent impression.
Would you eat with me?
It keeps getting better. And she will just smile and take a seat. And pretending to be cool, while still being outshined by Mantaruk's coolness.
She bear will has like a little like lean-to like tarp on tent poles that sort of stands up to offer you some shade from the sunlight.
I was about to ask if it's evening now.
It is midday-ish.
Okay.
So the sun is high in the sky, although the Makati, you made an effort to go out and see the edge of the affected area. So I give you an idea of how quickly the spell would fade, and it seems like it's fading quicker than that. It's like something is rushing the night back.
And is it
it's really collapsing back.
It's a tug of war with the fuckers over in the skull tower thing.
God damn it.
That's an educated guess. Yeah. I would say that's an educated guess.
College level, PhD educated guess.
Fucking with is a thing that we study very hard in Ranger School.
So, as we have a little roleplay session here, this is going to equate to a long rest. So everybody gets their level up.
Yeah! I have all these hit points now.
You have all those hit points. So you can start recording what you need to record on your character sheet. But, I don't want to take all day, but let's go around the table and have a little gab session with Oye Mantaruk and see what she, them has to say.
I am obsessed with this bear. I've just, you pulled the image up on the screen and I was like, oh, everything is good in this world now. Oye Mantaruk exists.
It is kind of early.
I'm just like, I didn't know that I was attracted to bears until this image came up.
She'd been single for a month and all of a sudden...
I know.
Well, bears can smell the menstruation.
We have Baldur's Gate.
You hear that, Kate? Bears.
I hope you're happy.
In your area.
Bears in your area.
Put the whole party in danger.
In your area. Jesus Christ.
Open a corner store that sells crampons and tampons.
Oh my god.
Slam-ons.
Holy shit.
Oh boy.
I'm going to take the skilled feat, by the way, if that's cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
To get even more skills.
Yeah.
Let's do the 1 minute around the table to get what everybody gets for new toys, because that is really fun.
Yeah, go ahead. Let's start with Una. What did you get at level 8?
Show us what Santa got you.
Santa Bear.
Santa Bearby.
Una, through, communing with her patron and this sort of sense of guilt, is getting ever so slightly more creepy. Which is an in-character way of saying, I got a charisma boost.
Hey.
I took a boost in charisma and hit points, and I got a new spell that I haven't picked out because I only have 7 right now.
That's fine.
But, yeah. So now I can hit things with an axe, but betterer.
But harder.
Much better.
Like,
We fixed the math.
Yes.
Basically.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, Una hits things with an axe harder than... Maybe not harder than Zev hits things with a sword. But it's close.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on level 8. Kaylee, what does Evelyn get at level 8?
I'm going to take skilled and see who's going to be better at Arcana and religion from all the bullshit that we've been going through. And I'm actually still debating on the third skill. I'm thinking either sleight of hand or acrobatics.
Nature. We don't have a nature person, do we?
We don't
We
have
have
a
a
nature
druid.
person. We have a druid
Oh, you
and a
know-
ranger.
you know
Neither
nature.
one of them are trained in nature.
Oh, but we have a warlock who does nature, so I guess
Oh, that's
fine.
right, yeah.
Yeah.
Somehow.
I just don't think Zev would be that interested in
No,
nature.
probably
I
not.
mean,
Yeah.
like,
Human
I have
body
a
is
plus.
Well,
nature
and
of
I mean,
sorts.
even as a drow living on the surface world, you might as well be a human on Mars. This is an alien world to you.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You
I have
know.
a +4 to nature because I think I'm the only one who went to,
To school.
To
other
nature
than
school,
Zev. I actually went to school and was like, these plants will kill you. These plants
Yeah.
are edible.
Don't boil belladonna root and eat it like a baked potato.
You have to
I think I'll go with acrobatics just for the sheer amount of
Yeah.
It's impossible not to. It's so good for rogues.
Yeah.
Makati, what do you actually look like you're working? I'm not going to bother you. We'll
It's,
come
I
back
mean,
to you.
it's not. It's honestly not. I'm just erasing things because I wrote down all the stuff I needed from earlier. It's not very exciting. My charisma's going up by 1. My constitution's going up by 1. Similar to your explanation for charisma, I'm explaining my charisma going up as being friends.
Making friends and also a lizard with the sun.
Yeah, a lizard in the sun is
Yeah.
just so content. Yeah, I just get a little more HP, another sorcery point, and I get another spell. And I did pick Vitriolic Sphere, which is such a dope fucking spell.
Nice.
I haven't heard of that one.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
That's like a big acid fucking ball.
Yeah, cool, because I'm an acid.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
You do acid.
I mean, we know this.
shitload.
Kenny.
All right, awesome. Congratulations on your
Cod
levels.
LSD.
And Kuspalad and Nyantai, what do you guys get? You already told me, but go ahead and tell
Yes,
the
so the sunlight makes Kuspalad feel a little bit more charged up. He didn't realize the weight that was on his shoulders, and as a result, his constitution has increased to a new milestone. So my hit points have gone up to 76
Wow.
as of today.
Beefy boy.
And also, all the experience of the supernatural has given me a bit more insight into how the spirits work, boosting my wisdom score.
Excellent.
Which is good for casting ranger spells, but also is how Nyantai fights. So Nyantai gets +1 to literally everything.
Awesome. Well, congratulations on
Okay.
level 8, guys. Good job.
Thank you.
Fun level.
So, as you all, sort of get relaxed and enjoy your newfound companionship with Oye Mantaruk,
He's a growler bear, not a shoulder bear.
he guts the fish and puts them on spits and roasts them over the fire that you helped build, and seasons them with whatever seasoning you get, and he prepares a pretty good meal, a pretty solid meal that gives you your long rest. And he is loaded with questions about the Mythalar and what happened to Macretus. He intimates that, while he wasn't, on a friendship level with Macretus, he had visited the cabin before and made acquaintances with him. They will go on to explain that, the cabin is one of the many places that he would stop and rest, while they were traveling the all of Icewind Dale, and says that, my commitments, my oath, and my commitments take me far, to the Underdark, across Icewind Dale and back, and I don't consider any one place to be my home, but I rest my head many places.
Oye Mantaruk, if I might be so bold as to impose, I had thoughts of repairing this cabin so that it could once again be used as a refuge for the local hunters and people trying to escape the wildlife and the dangers of the dark. We don't have the time in our adventures to make such repairs. Are you competent with a hammer and nails?
I could hold my own, but I have friends who would be better suited for such a task. I could enlist them. I believe that this is a structure worthy of repair and saving for the shelter and relief it provides, so I would be happy to ask my friends to do such a thing. The dwarves, perhaps, might be willing to.
The Doors of Kelvin's Cairn makes very good sense. We'll leave behind a number of supplies that we had taken from the destruction of one of the 10 towns. Certainly more than enough to repair the cabin. But it is our hope that this would become a refuge again for those who are displaced by storms and the eternal night.
As you talk, and you start to notice like it's slow at first because the blue sky with the gray clouds going over is starting to slowly fade back to violet and purple. And it's when you notice that the sparks from the fire are starting to like light up the night sky that you realize that your break from the long night is coming to a
the spell has either been overpowered or natural night has happened. And
you can tell that Oya Mantaruk is aware of this as well. Just sort of like every once in a while when there's a lull in the conversation, he's looking around, seeing the horizon, feeling the heat coming off the snow as it starts to slowly dissipate.
Do we know if it ran out because like it's just that's how long the spell lasts, or like did the Mythalar like burn up? Not the Mythalar, the Chardolin.
So one thing you notice is that you had replaced the diamond in the middle of the Summer Star with a chunk of Chardolin, because it requires a gem in the middle as sort of a conduit to channel energy. And as the spell was cast, that Chardolin, it looks like a black rock anyway, but it's definitely like withered and twisted and like has shrunk.
It doesn't look magical anymore.
It looks like maybe this was a one and done casting and you would have to rebuild the device in order to try and do it again.
All right, so we get a bunch of Duergar to start
just harvesting Chardolin.
All the Chardolin. Oh my god, it's such a brilliant... Fuck.
Oh. Damn it, if only we knew where there were Duergar. I knew there was a bunch of dead ones.
I know there's a bunch of assholes throwing Chardolin into the magma.
But, you have maybe, eating and cooking and setting up camp and whatever, the long rest takes a long time. But as the spell's fading, you have, maybe another half hour, 45 minutes of real sunlight as the jovial conversation starts to get a little more serious and you guys are actually talking real topics now. So if you have anything you want to ask Oya Mantaruk, now would be the time.
Oya Mantaruk, were you present when the events happened at Lonelywood that caused all the people to leave or be taken?
Reluctantly, I was not. My oath took me elsewhere. But I returned because I felt that the veil between this realm and the border ethereal had become traversable yet again. I believe that's what happened when you called upon Macretus' spirit to assist you. That's when I returned. As far as what happened to Lonelywood, I try not to meddle with the affairs of the 10 towns. Some of them find me off-putting. And while I have a number of people I call friends, and I would not see any harm come to them, my presence in the 10 towns is not necessary in order for me to fulfill my oath.
What do you know of the cult of Auriel?
Auriel has been a goddess that has been followed in this land since time immemorial, even since before my time, which is getting long in the tooth. And he smiles a grin of big bare teeth. In the worst of winters, the fervor of her worship is always the strongest. However, this is not a natural winter, which calls upon the people who worship her to beg her forgiveness or for her to pass over them in the night when the cold steals the warmth of their children. This is something made either by her followers or the goddess herself. I've been investigating the phenomenon for some time. All gods, regardless of their sphere, are tasked with protecting the borders between this realm and the other realms. The borderlands, the Feywild, the Shadowfell, the border ethereal, where spirits go to find rest. They travel through the barriers that protect this world from the next. This barrier is porous, malleable, easily formed for spirits and their energy to travel to where they need to be.
Look at Nine Tai.
This has stopped becoming the case, particularly in this land. The border has become something more rigid, something unprotected, a wall to be climbed or battered down, and not a gateway to usher in the spirits of the dead. I have encountered in my travels a unsettling amount of restless spirits in this land. Ghosts that can't move on. I fear Macretus was to be one of those until you satisfied his last wish.
Zeb nods, quietly thinking of Janth.
Just thinking, like, if that's, you have to fulfill their wishes for them to pass on. Janth is like, and finally I have my books.
Jeez, maybe.
Never know.
That's what we're trying to do. Icewind Dale is just fuck over Jam.
Well, in a meta sense, that's a very unnerving thing to hear because I just took Blink as one of my spells.
Yeah.
Blink.
I'm sure he'll be back in a minute.
So are you concerned that... Well, I guess I don't know what I'm asking. If this winter is entirely made, are you saying that the cult or Auriel herself is involved? And
It's
that
what
they need to be stopped?
It's what I'm continuing to investigate, but
If
whatever is happening here is unnatural, and when unnatural things happen, my investigations tend to lead me to following the power. And nothing right now is more powerful than Auriel and her cult, at least in this small corner of the world.
I am... go ahead.
Use your power. I'll take it. Have you encountered Evie Helgren's daughter in your travels?
I know of the giantess, although I have not squared up with her.
Through a clever use of magics, we've observed her casting some sort of powerful ritual at the head of a tower.
Yes. Shall we... I shall describe it. And I do. The skull. With the
I do
crown.
that.
I do that thing.
And with that, as you start describing, Oyamantaru holds up a finger to hold you for a moment, and then takes out an oversized journal with an oversized quill pen, capable of being held by bear paws, specially designed, and starts jotting down
Lots of tiny things.
like very intricate notes, and asking several questions about, okay, well, what were the colors, the direction in
We
which
talked
it
about the swirling
spun, and
lights
yes,
above
the
it
swirling,
and
wanting to get every detail down. And you can see that this journal is full of handwritten notes that Oyamantaru has taken.
You mean paw written?
Paw written.
Yes.
Thank you.
And is curious to find out what you have to say about what you witnessed through the mirror.
It's precious little.
I think
honestly,
we
but-
specifically don't mention the mirror, though, right? We just say through powerful use of magics.
Sure. Okay.
Full stop.
That's fair. Yep.
Yeah.
Secret mirror.
What would you like to ask?
Oh, no, I was just
There was something.
scratching my head.
Yeah, there was one thing I was going to add. Thinking about the ramifications of all of this, the reason I bring this up is that clearly Charlatan powers this device that we are so lucky to have found, but this is only a temporary solution. Even if we were to set up a rigorous and aggressive Charlatan assembling, gathering, mining task force, it would only be putting a band-aid on the problem. We must get to the root of it somehow. And if my instincts are telling me that this cult is responsible, it wouldn't be the first time that some offshoot cult has gone beyond their realm of power to simply disrupt things for the rest of us. Back home, we had the cultist of Ganadaur to contend with. And now on the surface, you have this. This is simply me speculating. We don't have enough evidence for sure, but
It seems like a safe speculation based on what we've observed so far. I think it would be a far cry to believe anything is at fault other than Evie Helgren's daughter and Ravison.
So I believe we must pursue these people. And to that end, Honorable Mantaruk, would we count you as an ally in these endeavors?
I would.
I'm trying to find the dialogue options to get him to join our party.
Yeah.
I was thinking more like, I think we're on the same page, but I was thinking like eventually we're going to get all the heroes to meet together like portals. So we want to like, what is the call, like the bear signal that we put up in this to get this badass
big fish.
A big paw in the sky.
We're eventually going to have a bitchin' skill challenge, and we need you to be one of our one-time powers.
Are you a bad enough bear to rescue the president?
Well, yeah, Mantruk will respond with, well, my oath brings me to watch all outsiders and their influence on the peoples of these worlds. Goddesses fall among my chosen charge. Regardless of what is at fault for this unnatural winter, and believe it is Oriel I do, Oriel has not lived up to her calling as a goddess and protected the borders between this realm and the next. For that reason, she must either be set aright or punished. And to punish a goddess is no small thing, but my oath remains my oath. I would count any friends opposed to Oriel among my friends, and looks pointedly at you. Any enemy of the Queen of Air and Darkness is a potential ally. Is not what Mother says?
You know that the Queen of Air and Darkness is not something or someone to fear, but someone who simply ushers people on to the next stage, as you will. I do worry if this wall that you mention is being built. What need has Oriel for the spirits that should cross naturally through the gate?
It is my opinion, in my studies and travels, that Oriel does not tamper with the barrier between this world and the next in order to harvest souls like so much wheat. More that her attention is directed elsewhere and her duties left neglected. The wall has hardened because it has not been tended to.
Because she is bound in the flesh.
I was gonna say,
she called out sick today.
God is using PTO.
I'm gonna make it an bound in flesh. I'm sorry.
You know, it's really going around. Yeah, I will ask. Oh yeah, what would happen if a goddess is bound in flesh?
A goddess's natural power must be greatly diminished in order for such a thing to happen. It's not unheard of. The time of troubles did happen. Which is why me and my fellow wardens have taken up the oath to watch the outsiders and keep careful tabs on what they do in this world. The affairs of gods are complex and vary from realm to realm. Oriel, as we call her here, the Queen of Air and Darkness, as they call her in the Feywild and the Shadowfell, are the same being, but can move with different consciousnesses and different thoughts, depending on which of the many realms you travel upon. How a goddess loses her ability to free herself from being bound in flesh is something that escapes even me, and I have dedicated my life to the study and pursuit of such knowledge.
And I cannot imagine that a goddess would willingly bind herself to flesh, knowing what flesh is.
It is likely either she was betrayed or trapped somehow.
By the trickery of humans?
Humans have a poor track record when entrapping and...
Or humanoids, I should say. I would not leave myself exempt from such ministrations.
In my experience, the things that trick gods are usually also gods. They are duplicitous more often than not, and engage in squabbles that, while devastating on this plane, would be considered petty if you were to look at them at their face value.
She craves freedom.
As anyone would who was not granted it.
She does not know it.
I fear whatever binds her in flesh, whatever put the crag cat in this corner, to use the parlance,
Nice.
is something far more dangerous. It's my fear that this everlasting night is Oriel's defense mechanism. The way she protects herself, or protects what she holds dear. You can count me as an ally. I have many obligations and many friends that I must protect. So travel with you I cannot commit to. But if there is a time of need, you sign this bear signal into the sky. I knew it!
I think Zev will just she'll cast dancing lights and like try to put the 4 points into like a claw shape.
Make it look like Ursa Major.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
I light a torch and make shadow puppets that shape like a bear.
But that's a bird. And Oyamantori was like, that bird.
It's, if you look at it upside down.
What kind of shit ranger are you?
If you look at it upside down, it's not the
And Zanzer pokes his head around the corner and is like, did you know?
You call it Shit Rangers?
Shit ranger, you say.
Myth. Yeah.
Yeah.